Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the special school board meeting and public hearing for the tentative budget adoption, I guess, right? Before we begin the work of the district, let us stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And with that said, I declare this meeting as a public hearing of the School Board of Lake County, Florida, for the adoption of the tentative millage rates and the tentative budget for the 2021-2022 fiscal year. At this time, we'll ask the Superintendent of Business Services to give a brief presentation on the tentative millages and budget.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the conversation.
No. No.
Okay, we're green. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
There you
Yes.
go. Yeah.
Okay, we'll put it up real close. Okay, first slide. All right, so first thing we'd like to do is go over the rollback millages. That's something that's required by statute. We have to discuss the rollback millages each year, and that's what determines whether or not we actually have to advertise a tax increase versus decrease. So if you look at 2020-21, our final millage for required local effort was 3.7010. And then for a total millage for all combined, it's 6.6990. For us to calculate the rollback millage, we take last year's property values and, or this year's current year property values and determine what millage we would levy to have the exact same tax revenue. So as property values go up, your millages have to go down when you calculate your rollback millage. And so you can see the 21-22 rollback millage is 3.5371 for required local effort, and a total millage of 6.4023. As we are all aware, our required local effort is set by the legislators each year, and the set rate for the 2021-22 tentative millage is 3.5940. We're allowed to levy without any additional restriction the non-voted discretional millage of 0.748. That's the maximum amount. That is the amount that all 67 school districts do levy, and the reason why we levy that is because the state equalizes that for us and gives our district additional funding based on that. And then we have the additional voted millage, which is restricted to the 0.75 mils, and that's what we have in the tentative proposal, 0.7 mils for additional voted millage, and then the maximum capital outlay millage of 1.5 mils. And of course, that 1.5 mils is for new facilities. It's also the maintenance and repair of current facilities and our school buses and some other miscellaneous items that are only allowed by statute, and it's 1.5 mils. So our total tentative millage is 6.5920 for 2021-22. And again, because our tentative millage of 6.592 mils exceeds the rollback millage of 6.4023, we had to advertise a notice of tax increase. Next slide, please. So this is the budgeted revenues for each of those types of millages. You can see 2020-21. Wait, I'm sorry. I got lost on mine. All right, here we are. 2020-21, our budgeted revenues, the required local effort is 97 million. The rollback revenue, which by calculation has to be the same, would be 97 million. But with the new tentative millage, it would be $101.5 million for required local effort. And then the next line, and I'm sorry I lost my columns there. My next line is the additional non-voted approved millage, and then the voted approved millage of 21,195,250, and then the capital outlay millage of 42,390,000. So a total of $186,292,111 for millage levy next year. Next slide. This is just an estimate of our revenues by our funds, our general fund, special revenue fund, debt service. I do want to clarify for the board, because our ESSER 2 funding and ESSER 3 funding have not been approved by the state yet, it's not included in our tentative budgets. So our budget for our general fund is built off of not having any ESSER 2 funding or ESSER 3 funding. So our ESSER 2 funding just got allocated by the Florida Department of Education, and we're in the process of submitting our plans to them now. And once they're approved by the state, then we will include them in our budget. As you'll see, there's $438 million total in total resources for the general fund. $54 million of that is the fund balance from the 2020-21 fiscal year, and then $366 million of revenue, and then $17.5 million in transfers in. So just a quick overview of our budget revenues. Next slide is our appropriations and expenditures. We did allocate our schools as far as our employees based on our 2019-20 prior to COVID numbers. So our schools are staffed to the pre-COVID levels. So if the students do come back, we're prepared. The teachers will be there, ready to go. And so our expenditures are a little bit higher than our revenues for the year, but our fund balance in our general fund was sufficient enough to cover that without having to add any ESSER dollars to it. So we have a total of $409 million in general fund, and all funds, including our enterprise and internal service fund, is $688 million in appropriations. And then the final page, it shows the transfers out of the capital projects funds that cover to the general and to the debt service fund, and then the projected fund balances for the end of next year. You'll see that our projected fund balance for the ending of next year in our current budget is, I'm sorry, next slide.
Yeah, next slide.
Thank you. Is $28 million, which is a lot less than the 54 that we're ending in the current year. But again, that's because our revenues are based on not as many students coming back. However, we're going ahead and preparing our schools, having our staffing levels prior to the COVID levels, and our general fund was able to absorb that in the current year. So again, we're appropriating out $873,984,008. And that concludes my portion of the presentation. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Superintendent, would you please read the statement required on the millage for the record, followed by your recommendation?
The first issue to be discussed is the rollback rate. The rollback rate is defined as the millage rate necessary to generate the same amount of money that was raised the prior school year, but using the new property values after adjusting for new construction. Total millage to be levied is greater than the rollback rate by 2.96%. The purpose for which the ad valorem tax revenues are increasing are due to the increase in the required local effort millage revenues in order to comply with Statute 1011.62 for Florida statutes and participate in the Florida Education Finance Program. Also, to increase in the non-voted millage revenues in order to receive the state compression funds, and an increase in the capital outlay revenues in order to address the capital outlay and debt services needs as advertised. I recommend that the board adopt Resolution 2021-06, determining tentative millages to be levied for the fiscal year 2021-22. Included are required local effort, including prior period funding adjustment millage of 3.594 mils, the basic discretionary of 0.748 mils, the capital outlay millage of 1.5 mils, and additional voted millage of 0.75 mils, for a total of 6.592 mils. The revenues generated by this levy total general operating of $122,706,363, capital outlay of $42,390,499, and additional voted $21,195,250, for a total of $186,292,112.
Thank you, Superintendent. May I have a motion on the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve Resolution 2021-06? 2021-06, determining tentative millage for the fiscal year 2021-2022 as stated.
So moved.
Second?
Second. Okay, this would be the part where we have public input. Is there anyone that wishes to speak to this? I thought so.
I did not submit a request.
Okay. Well, wait a minute. We have somebody who did. Just one second. And then you can come up. Please, come on. If you would speak, give your name and address for the record, and then I'd like, on behalf of this board, to wish you a happy birthday. And you have 3 minutes.
David Serdar, 66 Wintergreen Drive, Clifton Park, Florida, 34731. This is very interesting to me. My dad was an elementary school principal, and all the principals would work together with A.J. Katzmeyer, the superintendent of schools. And my cousin Bill Anderson, well, he just retired. He was on the school board at Waukegan, Illinois, the county seat of Lake County, Illinois. Well, yeah. I just left Senator Baxley's office earlier today talking to Matt McLean, and as I drove back again, you know, our legislators are available. Anybody can go. And what you got to do today for our kids of the future, well, you are the elected officials. We appreciate it. We know what's going on out there. You know, everybody needs a job. Some people don't have houses. They don't know what the taxes are to pay for the schools. Education is the most important thing. And, well, not everybody gets an education. Some of us work Habitat to Humanity. You have the Leesburg campus. You have the South Rich High School or East Rich. And there's another one I read in the paper that puts houses back together for people. And college and technical education in Lake County, Florida, hey, it's a great thing. You know, I used to work at Leesburg High School. I talked to the principals the other day. He was on vacation. Well, everybody's getting ready to go back to school, aren't they?
Thank you very much. Jen, if you would give your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
How are y'all? I'm Ken McCard, and I live at 11015, 3 small words, MNL, Grove Road, Leesburg. I just have 2 issues. I don't have the answers. I don't expect you to give me I don't have the answers. That's why I'm asking. I don't expect you to answer me back. But I just have a couple concerns that I think kind of float around out there. I'm not saying the public backs me on this, but we had a lot of people, as you know, during COVID, out of work, lost jobs, reduced pay, and to my knowledge, I don't think teachers or school system staff were in that category, and I've just wonder why. And all government entities, I don't know why they weren't part of that whole ball of wax. And secondly, I'd like to somewhere, I guess I can access it somewhere on the computer, but just would be concerned at this time with the economy the way it is and with what we have been going through, less and less, but have been going through it, what percentage of increase in pay did school system staff get? Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Okay, I see no one else, so public input is closed. Superintendent, would you read? Oh, we have to vote on this one first. Okay, so any discussion, board members?
None.
All those in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Okay, Superintendent, if you'll read your recommendation for the adoption of the tentative budget.
I recommend that the board approve Resolution 2021-07, adopting the tentative budget for the 2021-22 fiscal year in the amount of $873,984,008.
You've heard the superintendent motion. Do I have a recommendation?
So moved. Second?
Second? Okay. This is a public hearing. Does anyone wish to speak to this issue? Seeing no one come forward, board members, any discussion?
Just a couple of quick thoughts and that I wanted to share. I know we haven't had an opportunity to get into the specifics on the workshop on this, and I know when we do, you know, when you're talking about this many hundreds of millions of dollars, you know, there's always the opportunity to fine tune some things. But I just wanted to offer some praise on this particular budget for a variety of reasons, and that's one, the level of comfort that we have concerning salary increases, particularly with a ratified contract for LCA already in place. I'm also thankful for the increased per student allocation on the school operating budgets and a healthy fund balance. So I think we've put together a good budget for us to go in and fine tune as we get deeper into this process. Thank you.
Totally agree. Hold on. Okay, anyone else? Okay, Time to vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0. Where am I at? I got another one? Right here? Right here. Okay, Superintendent, please read your recommendation for setting the final budget hearing.
I recommend that the board declare the final budget hearing for the approval of the final millage rates and budget for the 2021-22 fiscal year to be held on Monday, September 13th, 2021, in the Lake County School District Office Boardroom at 5:05 PM.
Okay, may I have a motion on the superintendent's recommendation that the board declare the final budget hearing for the approval of the final millage rates for the budget 2021-2022 fiscal year will be held on Monday, September 13th, 2021, in the Lake County School District Office Room at 5:05 PM.
So moved.
Have a second? Okay. This is a public hearing. Does anyone wish to address that? Seeing no one come forward, it's time for us to have a discussion and vote. Any discussion?
Well, I do have a question on this. So we're also designating the location as this particular location.
Oh,
That's accurate, right?
Yes.
All right.
is that correct?
So we have not confirmed. That was a topic for tonight. I think that it is the recommendation of staff that we've moved back to the county commission building. And so the timeline of that, I've got to get with Mr. Carr, who's going to have to work with them and make sure that the security is set up. So I will give you the date of that. I do think that it would be probably prior to September the 13th. So
We'd have to come back here for that
We-
specific meeting.
we may either have to, I'll have to get with Ms. Challenger to see if we would need to re-advertise or if we can hold off on have we already advertised this? So if I can have a day or two to confirm when we can actually move back over there, we might need to amend this.
And that is, I'm sorry, Superintendent, Mr. Chair, that is not something that has to be set in stone and voted on. The more important thing is the date and time. And
Okay.
then when we go to advertise, we make sure that we have the right place in there. So that is something we can be flexible on.
So would it be more prudent of us just to leave the location off this particular motion and just focus on the date and time? Because, right, this one is open for a public hearing, and so I guess I'm just nervous of the process to change that.
That's a good point. Let me amend that recommendation, if that's all right. I recommend that the board declare the final budget hearing for the approval of the final millage rates and budget for the 2021-2022 school year be held on Monday, September 13th. Location to be determined, and the time is at 5:05 PM.
Okay. Do I have a motion on the amended?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passes 5-0. This concludes the required action for the public hearing on the 2021-2022 tentative millage rates and the budgets for the Lake County schools. Meeting adjourned.